To be a generalist is to focus on knowing a great amount about a great number of things. I'm Colin Wright, and you are watching Consider This. Unfortunately, we're not really incentivized by the forces that be to be a generalist. We are a lot more incentivized to be specialists, to specialize on one thing and one thing only, go to school for that thing, put that on our CV or our resume, apply for jobs in this one particular field. And this is the way that it's been for a very long time. Industrial Revolution onward, essentially. We have been incentivized to be masters of one thing and to not be a jack of all trades. Because that way we are much better, much more focused cogs in this larger societal machine that we've built. And there's nothing inherently wrong with this. In fact, it works really well for a lot of very specific things, but it does tend to silo our thinking in a lot of ways too. The consequence of this societal norm is that I might be brilliant at one very specific thing, but completely ignorant about everything else going on around me. Which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it actually really is. If I'm a brilliant painter, for example, but completely ignorant about economics, it may be that at some point in my future, I am unable to do this one thing that I'm brilliant at because the ground below me falls out. Because I don't understand economics, maybe I'm not able to earn enough money to continue to perform this task that I'm so good at. It may be that I'm unable to keep a job on the side or unable to operate within the fine art industry enough to make a living off of this work that I do. And so this lack of contextual understanding, this lack of understanding about supplementary information that orbits around this main focus that I have, it could be the thing that disallows me from actually performing this task or from doing it as well as I could be doing it, had I that supplementary knowledge. On the other hand, if I'm, say, brilliant at coding, at developing for computers, and then I learn a little bit about graphic design and a little bit about furniture design, a little bit about architecture, a little bit about fashion, suddenly not only do I have all of these other categories to derive inspiration from that might inform this main body of knowledge that I have, and not only do I have suddenly all of these other opportunities, should the work for developers dry up, then maybe I could invest a little more time in my design skills and get a job there. But I also understand a great deal more about the context of everything that I'm doing. I understand where this code that I'm writing fits in with all of these other industries. I understand what role I play in this broader context, and as a result am able to better structure what I'm building for the bigger picture that I'm building this thing within. So my core focuses, my specialties, allow me, in a certain way, a head start in these other fields potentially, but these other fields also give me a boost for that main specialty that I've been working on for a greater amount of time and putting more effort into. When we think about anything, we think about that thing in context. If I go back to a previous example and I'm a painter, I'm not thinking about painting just, me painting. I'm not thinking about it as an isolated event that's happening just this one time. I'm thinking about the entire history of painting. I'm thinking about all the other people who are painting in the world right now. I'm thinking about the people who are making sculptures and the people who are doing graphic design work and all these other things that kind of have an interplay with this main thing that I'm doing. By expanding our context, by adding supplementary knowledge to everything that we do, by having all of these supplementary fields that we're involved with or that we're researching, that we're learning about, we expand that context. If you think about our body of knowledge as like a web, and each little node is a different industry or field or body of knowledge, all of the little nodes are connected to each other with these lines, and that creates this great big web. The more you learn, the more of a generalist you become, the richer and denser that web becomes. And more of these things are connected to other things in a useful way. And suddenly we're able to see the similarities and connections between developing code for a computer and building a house, drawing out a blueprint for some type of architectural product. The connection between these things aren't immediately obvious, but the more you know about more things, the more you can see these connections and then use them to inform your research and your work in both of these fields. It's also worth noting from a purely mercenary standpoint that the more bodies of knowledge you have, the more likely you are to avoid any extinction-level event within your particular field. If all you know about is developing computer code and suddenly the bottom falls out on that industry and we don't need so many developers anymore, what are you going to do if that's the only thing you know about? And this is becoming even more meaningful and poignant as the years go by, because more and more entire industries and entire practices are being replaced by automation and soft AI. Will your specialty necessarily be replaced by robots? Maybe not, but is that a risk that you want to take? Is it a risk that you want to take that something within your field will not change radically in the next decade? The end result is that your professional life, your career, is not so fragile, because you've spread the weight out into a bunch of different industries, a bunch of different categories, in a way that makes you more secure, more stable, and a lot more resilient whatever happens next. Probably the biggest consequence of focusing more on being a generalist rather than just a specialist is that your breadth of knowledge about the world, about different industries, about everything, grows, as well as your depth of knowledge. So rather than just expanding ever downward, you're also expanding outward and creating a more three-dimensional body of knowledge and becoming a more three-dimensional, well-rounded person yourself. And it's worth saying that being a generalist doesn't mean that you can't be a specialist as well. It just means that maybe you specialize in multiple different fields, or you specialize in one field and then put a 50% effort in a bunch of supplementary skill sets. So you can absolutely still focus on the thing that you're most passionate about and most interested in, just not at the expense of everything else. If you enjoyed this video, a like or a share or a subscribe would be amazing. You can also leave a comment in the comment section below if you'd like to ask me a question to answer in a future video. You can find out more about me and my work at colin.io. You can find my blog at exilelifestyle.com and my podcast at letsknowthings.com. And you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet, on social media at Colin is my name. That's as well. Fuck.